Yeah, okay, let's do this. Hey now, PASW staff, clients, and friends joining us. Welcome to Film Scoring Monday. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys had a good weekend. A lot of fun looking at your results for Harry Potter on Friday. That was terrific. Good job. We're getting better and better. This is, of course, Film Scoring Monday, where we look at a famous scene. I take out the music. You think of the best choice for that, and I embed it, and then we see it on Friday. So if you're new, please play along. Get the music to me by today. Tomorrow is fine. Tuesday is fine too. We're in no rush. We're going to have a great week. We're going to make it a great week, rather. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to keep it in the kid realm. Not kid realm, but fantasy realm today. I thought that this would be a good challenge for us, and we'll get to the challenge later. But today we're going to really look at the life of a genius a bit, but also one of the greatest films he ever made. So today we'll be looking at the iconic 1940 film Fantasia. Everyone's heard Fantasia. It's not the singer. We're talking about the movie. It came out, released in 1940, and it was Disney's boldest experiment. And it really is. I mean, it's kind of like an experimental movie in a way, bringing to life his vision of blending animation with classical music. That's, of course we know that there's no talking in it. I mean, there's talking in between the segments, but for the most part it's just, and as we know, these are classical pieces, so what came first? The music came first, right? So this is going to be not the opposite of film scoring, but usually, as we've talked about with scores, the composer is the last one to see the movie after it's shot and edited. This time Disney is working, and his animators are working with a pre-existing score. So, we'll get into all of that. And this kind of was a vehicle to really get Mickey Mouse started again, because in the 30s he was, the silly symphony guy, and Disney was really trying to get the popularity and fame that he wanted Mickey to have. So that's kind of it. Okay, let's get over to Burbank. This is they move from Silver Lake. Their original studio is where Gelson's is. That was originally where they worked, and then right around this, in the late 30s, they go to Burbank. The movie consists of 8 animated segments, so it's like the longest Disney movie ever made, actually, although it's just over 2 hours, and set to classical music, conducted by Leopold Stokowski, probably one of the most famous conductors of that, especially in 1940. So famous. And he met with Disney at Chasen's restaurant, very famous Hollywood hangout place that's now at Bristol Farms. It's weird how is everything turning into markets now, but back then it was the place to have meetings, to drink, to have fun. They had a conversation, Disney and Stokowski, about this idea that Disney had, and Stokowski loved it. He thought that this was brilliant, and it was brilliant. Soundtrack was recorded with multiple audio channels. So this was, Disney was so ahead of his time. That's why, he was truly a genius. When you think of all of Disney didn't exist, the characters, the world, the place that we visit, without this man's imagination. It all came from this one guy's imagination. So when you think of it like that, there's very few artists that have that kind of sight, a vision for it. Okay, so he's got, it's called Fantasound. That's what he's coming up with. It's a new, and so he's pioneering a new sound system developed by Disney and RCA as well. And instead of most theaters that had just one speaker behind, in the theater, he had multiple speakers. It cost about $1 million for each theater. In today's money, to upgrade their sound system. It was a big failure when it came out, actually, mostly because of World War II, which was, happening in 1940. In the middle of it, it eventually came to life, and became extremely successful. That's why we're talking about it today. Let's just look at Disney's life for a little bit. He had an 8th grade education, didn't go to high school. Determined to be his own boss, though, had his own vision. Grew up in a farm in Missouri and would animate stuff. And of course, we know Disney didn't invent animation; it had been going on. But he created not just silly drawings; some of them were silly, but drawings with character, with emotion, with a storyline. Or like we've talked about with film history, where they're not just gags and a series of gags and funny things, that's fine too, but he elevated into a story with emotional characters and an arc and all that stuff with animation. So he was one of the first to do that, using animation into a realistic movie where you could have a real movie and not just something where there's emotional involvement. So born in 1901, dies in 1966. So he's 65 when he dies, probably from smoking 3 packs of unfiltered cigarettes a day. Known also famously for his terrible cough because of these cigarettes. So all the animators and people would know when Disney was in the building because of his loud cough coming toward you, which sounds very scary. I think he was kind of a scary person in a sense. But he had a vision. He knew what he wanted to see and demanded a lot of his animators. So comes out to Hollywood, though, in 1923 with his brother Roy. Roy was in charge of the money aspect of the books. And then Mickey Mouse makes its debut in 1928 with Steamboat Willie. Disney was the voice of Mickey until about 1947, so for a long time, but he wasn't drawing it. He was too busy to continue drawing Mickey Mouse. And it wasn't until The Sorcerer's Apprentice that was the first impetus of, before they decided to do this movie Fantasia. He really wanted to up Mickey's image, get him more popular with the kids, and that it's kind of started as like a short for with Paul Ducas's score, and once he got the rights to that story, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, it went beyond that. He wanted to create more stories and use more pieces of music, classical music, to make it a concert movie. He really wanted this to be performed live to a picture, which it wasn't, of course, but he wanted to make it a concert movie, something that we do today. Again, he was so ahead of his time. So Disneyland opens in 1955. He dies in 1966, so he sees about 11 years of the theme park. The Jungle Book was the last movie that he oversaw. When Disneyland opened, it cost $1 for adults, 50 cents for children to get into the park, and then an extra 10 cents and 25 cents for every individual attraction. Pretty affordable back then, So Fantasia comes out the same year as Pinocchio, 1940. Next year you get Dumbo, and then 42 you get Bambi. Over 1,000 artists and technicians made Fantasia possible. That's a lot of people that you have to pay. So going back to the Fantasound, this kind of stereo surround sound early system of it, multi-track recording and overdubbing. One of the channels, the 9th channel of the recording, was at Click Track. We talked about who was the early starter of Click Tracks. It was Carl Stalling, right? He was one of the early starters of Click Tracks, which is the metronome, which is how the people keep a beat. The conductor and the musicians stay on a beat. There needs to be a click track. So one of the channels was a click track for the animators to time their drawings to the music. So here again we have the opposite thing, where they're animating to a score that's already been recorded. So they're using the musical click track to get the hit points for the animation that's why it synchronizes so perfectly. Disney also was interested in the 4D experience, even though it didn't get off the ground. Disney and Stokowski wanted to have fragrances sprayed in the theater, and smells and sounds. I mean, this was 1940. Nobody was thinking about that. Even just now, we're kind of getting into that 4D experience where it's the sound and the smells and all of those things. So again, he was such a visionary. So the budget back then was $2.2 million, a lot of money. But it makes $76 million, not right away, of course, because of the war. You know, when you got the war, you can't go overseas, and that's where you make a lot of the money. And then in the 60s, it became kind of a psychedelic experience to, I don't know, smoke some grass and go to the theater and see these kind of crazy cartoon images with this hippie music. Not hippie music, but you know, if you listen to some of the music, I mean, like Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, it's crazy music, even though that was written in the early 20th century. Stravinsky was the only composer that was still alive, and I hear different stories, whether he liked it, he didn't like it. I mean, they paid him, so I'm sure he was happy with that, but that opening dinosaur shot is just, or the opening of the world, pretty amazing for that. Okay, but let's talk about our scene. We're gonna look at the night on Bald Mountain, which is something Sarah Wright submitted a few weeks ago for the Ten Commandments. So good job, Sarah. This is a very scary scene. In fact, many parents wrote letters to Disney saying that he's got to do something about it. This is way too scary, and it is for 1940. This is a tone poem written by Mussorgsky. Mussorgsky's a Russian composer we haven't looked at. This is probably his most famous piece he ever wrote. Tone poem we looked at, and we know that that's like a symphonic one movement piece. That's what a tone poem is. He writes this in 1867, so you know, a little under 100 years, and you know, before Fantasia. So I mean, the scene is, you know, I mean, it's this devil pretty much. And he summons all of his minions, including ghosts and vultures, and they dance furiously. And as he throws them into the mountain's fiery pit, it's terrifying. Bela Lugosi was kind of used as a model for this person. I don't think they ended up using him, but the animators would have real life people come in and pose for them. Let's take a look at just the some of the segment of Night on Bald Mountain. You've probably seen it. It's terrifying. I mean, at first it was cut from the movie because there were so many complaints about this being too scary. Again, this brings into our discussion that we always have, that without the music, it's pretty scary animation. But well, before I say that, let's watch your scene without the music. Still very scary. I mean, the animation's amazing. The imagination is terrifying of what the animators are doing. But then when you add the score to it, oh my gosh, forget about it, right? So here's your assignment. You have to choose a classical piece, okay? A piece that a composer's written that's scary. So I don't want to have a film score because I want you to find a composer that's written something scary. I mean, that's in basic terms. That's what I would like for you to do. Find a composer. He could be living. It doesn't have to be Mozart or something. It could be a living composer, but something that's not a film score already, that's not used for any other medium like that. I want you to find a composer that's written something scary, and this is your new assignment. This is going to be a new challenge. So it doesn't have to be Beethoven or Bach. It doesn't have to be famous, but it should be a composer. So that's your assignment for this Night on Bald Mountain from the movie Fantasia. Okay, said it all. Love you guys. Miss you. We're gonna get some good results, and I know that. And tomorrow we're gonna be doing something fun and new. So have a great rest of the day. And that's it. Okay, bye.